Hello everyone and welcome in. I am Pocket, and before we jump into this video, I did want to just say thank you for supporting not a small YouTuber slash streamer, but this tiny one. Before this video was posted, we aren't even at 100 subscribers, and yet you guys are still out here enjoying my content. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. All right, let's jump in. So once again, welcome into the 0-2 Hero Challenge Shaman Edition, Part 3. Alright, now to recap from last week, we ended at a IO score of 2062 with a item level of 454. And last week went pretty well. From what I remember, we didn't have a single bricked key. We timed our very first plus 18 keys with that small item level, and we are still using the Cloud Totem Burst build here in this video. And I mentioned it last week, but I'm not a huge fan of it so far, so we are going to change it in next week's video. But it's just, I'm not enjoying it. I don't think it's fun. It's not getting the burst healing that I thought it was going to, but we'll talk about that more a little later on. And to start off, as per usual, we are going to open up our vault, and we did time 8 keys last week, so we are going to have 3 different options. One is tier piece gloves, 2 is a ring from Waycrest Manor, and the third one is a non-tier headpiece. So I did decide that we are going to go with the ring because I really enjoyed the stats on it, which was crit and verse. I thought it was going to be a huge upgrade, and we can always just upgrade our tier gloves and stuff later on with Wormcrest tokens and stuff like that. So I thought the ring was going to be the best pick. This week too, I did decide to change up our talents a little bit. So we are going for a more damage-based build. We're going to get those insta-proc lava bursts and stuff like that. So that might add a little bit more flair and entertainment as I'm playing, so I can, do a little bit more damage and have a little bit more fun while doing these keys. And our very first key to start off the week is going to be a plus 15 Throne of Tides. And the affixes this week are going to be Fortified, Volcanic, and Spiteful. And I'm not gonna lie, this week is gonna be so easy. Volcanic, Spiteful, we can pull as big as we want. We can pull trash packs into bosses. It doesn't matter. There's nothing that's gonna really stop us from having big issues other than just kind of running away from the Spitefuls. But I'm really excited about this week. It's gonna be easy. Nothing could possibly go wrong. And we are starting with a plus 15 because it should be pretty easy. It's a perfect key to get warmed up on for the week, and we're just kind of getting back into the Shaman playstyle as we haven't played this character in a few days. And we're also just working on bumping our IO score up because we did do some 18s last week, and those were kind of lucky. I'm pretty sure it was our key that we did push it to. But in order for people to actually take us seriously, yeah, we gotta bump our IO up a little bit, and then they'll start inviting us into those bigger keys. All right, guys. This week, I wanted to start off by talking about a somewhat controversial topic. And I might get a lot of flack for this, but that's fine. Here we go. Let's talk about healers and DPSing in keys. And if you are a veteran who has played WoW from back in the day, you would know that healing has developed and changed over time so much from the vanilla days to the current time here. And DPS is a requirement nowadays. Like, that is the new normal. If you are not going into a key doing damage, sometimes you can get yelled at for it from other players. So before we get into this and I give you my opinion, I'm going to ask you guys a couple questions. First, starting with the healers. As a healer, do you like this? Do you like having a requirement to go into a Mythic Plus key and are required to do damage? Or at least people make you feel like you're required to do damage. And then from a DPS player and tank perspective, if you get into a key and you have a healer who is doing 0 damage the entire time, but they have decent healing, what is your guys' opinion on that? Or is it completely based off of the keystone level? So if I'm in a 15 doing no damage, is that okay? but if I jump into a plus 20, plus 22, and I do no damage, is that unacceptable? And I'm approaching this from a pug perspective. What you guys decide to do in your 5-man teams that you're running with, you know, that's completely different. We're talking about pugging. Okay, so now here's my opinion. In the current state of the game, the answer is no. I do not think that healers should be required to do damage, or they shouldn't receive lashback from other players for not doing damage. And this is because healers already do so much. Do you guys understand what we do in these keys? We are kicking, we are healing. Now you want us to do damage, we're dispelling, we're doing affix healing only mechanics. And like, what more do you want from us? And then we're dealing with all the normal mechanics you guys have to do anyways. In my opinion, healing is the hardest role to play in this current game. Hands down, no argument. Fight me. Okay, I might be getting a little too emotional over this topic, but in my opinion, I think that in dungeons there is too much unavoidable damage. If we were to change something, I think the mechanics should be more avoidable, more things that you have to dodge and look out for than having the unavoidable damage. I would like to hold more people accountable to avoidable skill-based mechanics rather than just these huge AoE burns that happen regardless of where you're standing or what it is that you're doing. If we were to have more avoidable mechanics, I think having healers required to do damage would be a lot more acceptable than how it is now. And obviously I have a massive bias because I do play healer, but hey. And then I know some of you healers might enjoy doing DPS and keys, and sometimes honestly, so do I. So I do think we should maintain those classes that do damage. For example, like Holy Paladins, Disciplined Priest, Mist Weaver Monks. Classes that rely on doing damage to also do healing, I think is an awesome mechanic, and it's very fun. I play a Holy Paladin as my main, and I enjoy it a lot. But to make that requirement for every class, it just doesn't feel special anymore, I guess. So I think to change the play style of these classes that require you to do damage to heal, on the other end, I think those healers should have more support-based abilities, like an Augmentation Evoker. Obviously, I know they don't heal, but to have more abilities that compensate for the loss of damage that those healers aren't doing for the healers that can now just buff the players around them a little bit more. So if you don't want to play a healer that requires you to do damage, you can always play the opposite end that helps everyone else around you as more heal/support class. Alright, let me know what you guys think. There is no right or wrong answer. The only wrong answer though is I think it is unacceptable for healers to get flamed in dungeons for not doing enough damage. Okay, so what I thought was going to be an easy, clean dungeon turned out to be an absolute disaster. The hunter has already died 3 times on every single pull. He is pulling less overall than the tank himself. And going into this massive pull here, the tank, after me popping a couple heals on him, instantly dies. Maybe there's something I could have done differently, but he had kings up when he died, so I just think maybe the pull was way too big and he just couldn't take all the damage. Because even if I had a heal out on him, I still don't think he would have survived. So we wipe it up and we run back into the pack that we originally wiped on. And as a healer, I'm not gonna lie, I don't like target heal tanks all that often. They usually take care of themselves just fine. They only get like the off healing and side heals that come from me healing other players. So the Crushing Death pops on the hunter and I'm trying to heal the hunter up and the tank dies. So a lot of different things went wrong here, to include just the absolute lack of damage from the hunter, no kicks coming out on any of those casts, and I thought maybe the paladin was a little undergeared. He ended up leaving, but I go to inspect him and his item level is at, 457? So, I mean, it's not terrible, but I don't know, I just felt like he was taking way too much damage. So, unfortunately, our easy week starts off with a bricked key. And then as we're hearthing out to go hang out in the in-game lobby, the hunter puts in party chat, I would like to stay for the next dungeon. Is that okay? And you know, I'm not gonna make fun of anybody. Everyone has different skill levels, but this is what I call poor keystone etiquette. And it might be rude for me to say that this is a bad player, but I think it's also just as rude to expect somebody else to carry you through a dungeon that is way beyond your skill level. With an overall DPS like that, honestly, you should be in lower keystones, and there's nothing wrong with that. We as players are all playing at different skill levels, and if you're not sure if you can do a 15 or not, honestly, push your own key. If you brick your own key, I feel like there's nothing wrong with that. That's okay. You're trying something new, you're getting out of your comfort zone. But to go into other people's keys knowing that you're probably not going to do well and then ask if you can stay along for the next one, yeah, I feel like that's kind of rude. Alright, so we jump back into another key. This one's going to be a plus 15, the Everbloom. And with our worst key done out of the way, we're coming in here looking to do a lot better. And no, it was a shit show, obviously. So the Demon Hunter goes and pulls the far right pack, which usually you don't do on this first pull because it's too much. There's guys cast in the back, the ad kills the hunter, I can't keep the Demon Hunter alive, he dies. And what do you know? We go for a full-on group wipe here. The tank tries to save it by running back in here and pulling all the other ads, but he ends up dying while I'm dead. And to be honest with you, I did forget to use Lust, but we have a hunter in the group too. He could have lusted as well. But playing a Shaman, not playing a class that always has Lust, I'm terrible. I always forget to use it, so that is my bad for that first pull there. So resetting the group, we pull the first pack into the second pack. It should be a pretty easy pull. However, we go straight into it and the tank just dies. I don't know why, but there it is. You might say, well, Pocket, you didn't heal him. Well, once again, I'm used to tanks like healing themselves. You know, tanks, you know, forgive me if I'm wrong, but most of the time, if not all the time, the healer doesn't need to focus heal you. You have so much healing capabilities, so much defensives, that most of the time when I heal a tank, it just goes into the overhealing category. And I'm talking about direct focused healing here. I'm not talking about like healing rain or a chain heal bounce or maintaining the earth shield up. It's just direct healing onto the tank. You don't really have to do it. So we recover, we regroup. I am currently searching for my repair mount because I don't have it macroed on my action bars because my armor and my boots are completely broken. And the druid pulls the big tree. Guys, don't ever pull this tree. There's no reason in any world should this tree ever be pulled. He is 100% skippable. He is not needed for percent. Anyways, we go ahead and take another wipe. We are not even at the first boss and we have 18 deaths. Now I definitely need to find my repair mount at this point because yeah, we're broken. We're at an item level of 50 right now. Alright, so we get our armor repaired, we come back in here, and I don't know if this Demon Hunter is just doing what he saw somebody on YouTube do once, but he grabs the pack here, and then we have another pack coming in up top. As you can see, they are just getting pulled and they are casting. And again, all hell breaks loose. He pulls in the other pack that is now casting at the top of the screen, and we have about 4 or 5 packs in here with no one doing enough kicks, and it's just another disaster. With all the ads completely spread out, the tank is having a hard time getting aggro on everything. There's casters everywhere. There's no kicks getting off. The healing is getting off, and the tank goes down, and that's gonna be another wipe for our group. And at this point, the paladin says, nah, I'm good. And to be honest with you, I've said this before, but it's always the worst person that will leave the group first. And as we can see, it was the paladin who once again is at the bottom of those DPS meters. But in his defense, I'm sure it's hard to DPS when everything is so spread out, so who knows. Now we are jumping into a plus 15 Blackrook Hold. We have our third dungeon here. 2 of them have been bricked. 0 progress towards our IO or gear or anything. This key, I decided to form it myself. So I am the party leader. I hand-picked every single one of these players. I am sick of joining these groups. We're gonna have a solid group here. I'm determined to time a key now. And I didn't make the same mistake that I did last time. We did use Bloodlust on this first poll, so didn't forget about it, and obviously that helped out a ton. And I'm not gonna lie, dungeons like Blackrook Hold and Waycrest Manor, these spiteful shades are super obnoxious because you don't have as much room to kite around, but we're gonna get through this. Jumping up here just to after the second boss, things are going perfectly. We only have one death. Everything is going according to plan. Like I said, hand-picked group, nothing could go wrong. Yeah, we're not gonna talk about that. So all in all, this dungeon couldn't have gone much better. We end up doing the 2 chest, giving us a plus 17 Galakron's Fall, getting plus 28 Mythic Plus rating, and happy that we actually timed a keystone today. So that was huge. Unfortunately, no loot. We're still at that low 454 item level, so hopefully we can get something in the next one. So because the last key went so well with me forming my own group, I decided just to do it again. So once again, I formed my own group. I did drop the key down to a plus 15 because I'm just trying to get those IO points right now. I don't want to go into anything a little too difficult, so we're just going to do the 15 for those points. And for those that watch my stream know that I am not a big fan of taking hunters into groups. I'm sorry, hunters. But we decided to go out on a limb here. We got this hunter in here, so hopefully it goes pretty well. Okay, now we're gonna jump ahead to the boss, the Blight of Galakron, and do a bit of a boss highlight here. So the first ability is Corrosive Infusion. Blight of Galakron blasts a player with corrosive energy, applying corrosion and causing a corrosive expulsion. And corrosion inflicts nature damage on impact and nature damage for an additional 1 second every 15 seconds. Upon expiration, corrosion causes corrupted mind, which causes you to get mind controlled if that's happened to you. And then every time you run to somebody with corrosion, you will pass it on, resetting the effects of corrosion. So now in order to get rid of corrosion, we have Blight Reclamation, which causes the boss to shoot a frontal cone, and this will remove the effects of corrosion. So the idea behind this is if you get corrosion on you, you hold onto it until a few seconds before Blight Reclamation, and that's when you will give it to your tank, who will then soak it and get rid of corrosion altogether. Stop giving this to other players that's not the tank. Moving into P2 of this fight, we have Necrotic Winds. And healers, as we know, this does a lot of damage. Corrosion is still active in this phase, so ideally, if you get corrosion on you, you want to give it to the tank right before Necrotic Winds. That way the tank can have it, and Blight Reclamation will happen immediately after the tornadoes, so no one will get mind controlled. And that is a perfect spot to preemptively use your healing cooldowns. And finally, moving into P3, the things we need to look out for is Incinerating Breath and Necrofrost. With Incinerating Breath, the boss is just going to jump to a random player, shooting out breath in front of him in a frontal cone, so don't stand in it. And then Necrofrost, it will root you to the ground. Now this can be countered by, if you play Druid, you can shapeshift. If you play a Paladin, you can use your Blessing of Freedom. And as I've been told in the comments, there is a talent for Shamans when you go into Ghost Wolf that it will unroot you. So I'm sure that one works as well. Correct me if I'm wrong. And finally, Blight Reclamation does not happen in P3, so corrosion will never go away, which means the tank and preferably a melee DPS will swap corrosion back and forth at around the 15-second mark before they get CC'd and mind controlled, but not too often, as you are constantly taking massive damage every time you pass it to the next person. So you want to trade it as little as possible. And we did finish up the rest of the dungeon without any other issues. It went very well, super smooth. We plus 2'd it, giving us 19 points, which is pretty good. And I know what I said about the hunter at the beginning, but take a look at those DPS meters. This hunter, I'm glad we brought them. They did awesome, so respect to that. Yeah, really good dungeon overall. And moving on to the final dungeon in today's video, we want a rematch at another plus 15 Everbloom, because that first one, as you know, was a disaster, so hopefully this one is a lot better. This tank pulls the first pack with just by itself. So already it's going better than the first one. Not saying you should only ever pull the first back, but this tank decided to take a little bit slow this time, so I can respect that. And obviously I decide to hold Lust here because we're not going to pop Lust on this one pack. We want to wait to get the biggest bang for our buck and use it on a bigger pack. We do pull the little Pat over here, get that healer aggro, but luckily we're fine. He jumps out of the way and we're just chilling and healing now. He does end up doing a double pull up here, which is good. This is where I decide to commit my Bloodlust to, because ultimately we want to get Bloodlust on cooldown as quickly as possible so we can get the most out of it during the dungeon. If we use it early on, then we can use it multiple times during the dungeon. So that's the idea. We commit it here and things are going really well. Now we're jumping ahead to the trash pack right before the third boss. And so far the dungeon has gone super smooth. We have 0 deaths and we're making excellent time. However, we do hit a bit of a rough patch here. The druid gets blasted by the arcane orb and then the monk does get caught in the ice and freezes to death. So now with the amount of kicks that is required for this pull, the real question is, can we 3-man this? No, we cannot. I am standing way too close to the trash pack, so when that arcane orb got shot out, it caught me in it and the paladin, so I didn't have any time to react and I pretty much killed him because it focused me. And then I don't know why I used my reincarnation. We're just not going to talk about that. Now we're jumping back in here with this trash pack for the rematch, and it goes a lot better. The druid and I give a lot more space, that way we can dodge the arcane orb a lot easier, and that's kind of the issue that I have because I play a holy paladin so much. I'm always up front and attacking, that I don't get range mechanics as a holy paladin. We are considered melee, so playing as a ranged healer I sometimes forget about mechanics like that, but we're given plenty of space now, no issues, and this trash pack goes down easily. With no other issues in the dungeon, we finally take revenge on this plus 15 Everbloom. We get the 2 chests, we get 21 points, and do we get some loot? Of course not. Why would we get any loot? We're 5 dungeons in, 2 of them are bricked, no loot for pocket today. Alright, and that is where we are going to end this video today. If you made it this far in the video, please drop a like and a subscribe to my channel. You obviously enjoyed it, you made it this far. And stay tuned, we'll have another one up soon. Once again, thank you guys so much, and we will see you in the next one.